talking about the Satanic conspiracy. What are we talking about here? What can you enlighten us on about the conspiracy that's happening?
Folks need to understand, like sometimes people say, well, how do we know which conspiracy to expose and which one's real? And well, this isn't about conspiracies. These are all tentacles, and that's why on the cover of the book we have this a Leviathan, because really this is a satanic conspiracy that goes all the way back to Cain, right? We have Cain and Satan conspiring together to kill his brother for gain. And that same conspiracy exists to this day, and it is Satan that is organizing, and that even if there's these different organizations, they all trace back to the same source. And so we really need to understand that spiritual nature of this to be able to really grasp what it needs to be done and the seriousness of the situation, so that we don't think that there's nothing that can be done, so that we don't just give up, that we actually say, I have a responsibility to my Lord and Savior to be able to say, I was a good and faithful steward. I did everything I can to promote the gospel, to be able to bring more people to him. And when he comes back to his vineyard, that is in a better position than it was when I got here. And so if we understand that, then we start to get to work, and that's really what this is all about. And so understanding, like we're talking about globalism, is a big part of that, because Satan involves himself in counterfeits. We have, Christ, of course, will reign as King of Kings, and of course, because of that, Satan wants to counterfeit that, and so he's building a satanic counterfeit to what Christ will do when he returns, and build this satanic world government to enslave mankind. And so we need to understand that globalism is a satanic counterfeit to that, and recognize what's really going on there. And one of the organizations you mentioned when you first brought me on about how we're working on the local level. Well, if this is a global conspiracy, how do we recognize it on the global level? And one of the things I talk about in the book Invasion is the Council on Foreign Relations. And so if any of your viewers have not heard of the Council on Foreign Relations, I highly recommend another book by James Perloff called Shadows of Power, where it goes into the history of the Council on Foreign Relations. In my book, I do a brief overview, but his book, Shadows of Power, just gets deep into it and its history and its goals, whereas the Council on Foreign Relations, a global program to implement global government underneath the United Nations. But they recognized that they couldn't get other communities, they couldn't get the United States all over the country to go along with their program. And so they formed individual chapters all across the country of the CFR called the American Committees for Foreign Relations. And they've got them in states like Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Vegas, you have them in Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, in all these areas where they're typically going to be more liberty-minded as a populace, to get them sold and to get their local governments to implement these Agenda 2030 programs, to get them to introduce these globalist programs into the local communities. But they don't realize it. The people in Utah or the people in Idaho don't know what's going on, because they think, hey, I've got, these guys, they talk nice, they look like me, they talk like me.
Yep.
There's no way they could be doing evil and not realizing how they've been infiltrated.